a Greek time, the goddess of love, lust, and beauty found her magical Prince Charming, the god of fire and volcanoes, Hephaestus. He was a powerful blacksmith, and she was the epitome of romance, and they all lived happily ever after. Well, not quite. You see, unsurprisingly, the goddess of love and lust had an affair with the god of war, Ares. She didn't just sleep with the god of war, she started wars, as she was one of the three sisters involved in the feud that started the Trojan War. Fair to say, she was a little toxic. So why do I tell this story? Because the Greeks were essentially the first to start dramas, way before Hollyoaks. So it comes as no surprise that the Greek poet Sappho was the first to link the heart to love. Dating back to 7th century BC, she lived in the Isle of Lesbos, where she wrote poems for both men and women, and one of them called her Ode to Aphrodite, where she first links her mad heart. Legend has it that she took her own life due to her undying love for the ferryman Faun. Love can truly make people act crazy, which is why today I want to go through the science of what happens when you do fall in love with someone, and why some people's brains might be wired to them having multiple lovers. Because no matter if you love one person, two people, or everyone, the heart truly is mad. A team of scientists, led by Dr. Helen Fisher, have broken down love into 3 sections: lust, attraction, and attachment. Each category is controlled by a set of hormones released by the brain. Lust is a need for sexual gratification. Evolutionary, it would help us pass on our genes to the next generation. Now it helps us get into political scandals. The brain section involved with this is called the hypothalamus, and it encourages the release of the sex hormones testosterone and estrogen. Male or female, any release in testosterone increases libido for everyone. Attraction. In basic terms, you see pretty human, you like pretty human. When you look at pretty human, the hypothalamus releases dopamine. Since dopamine is related to the anticipation of pleasure, you're now associating seeing pretty human with feeling good. I've made a video prior about dopamine and our love for money and power, but in the case of relationships, it can also be damaging. It can cause an unhealthy emotional dependence on our partners, adultery, and irrational behaviors. And these all stem from an excess need for dopamine stimulation. Mothers are great. Not only do they whip up wonderful dishes, but they also nag you about keeping those same dishes in your room. That said, I love my mum, and this attachment developed way back when I was selected as experiment 5.9 billion into this world. Childbirth and breastfeeding release the hormones oxytocin and vasopressin, which are linked to attachment. These hormones are released from the hypothalamus and is what makes us feel connected to the other experiment simulation we've chosen to elope with. You see a 10 out of 10 approach you. Your symptoms are increased heart rate, an inability to maintain eye contact, and what the humans call a severe case of butterflies in the stomach. What is the cause? The fact they're wearing rings. Nothing to do with them. You just had 3 shots of coffee before your bio exam. Your body just released adrenaline. Only 3% of mammals form lifelong pairs. So why did us humans choose it? Evolutionary, the love between 2 parents show the commitment to raising that child until they reach a point where they're independent. Of course, in a world where there are so many phenomenal single parents, that proves that is not always the case. What does Aphrodite, Tristan Thompson, and the French president Francois all have in common? They're all icons of power. They all love the fault in our stars. They've all had infidelity scandals. According to Schwartz, about 25% of married men have been non-monogamous, as have about 15% of married women. We all say we want monogamy, he argues, but as a society, we've become more desensitized to cheating. Take, for example, the French president Francois. He was buried with his wife and kids on one side, and his mistress and her daughter on the other, mourning his death. Now, being a mentally cuckoo neuroscience student, I'm more interested in the biological reasoning to what maintains committed relationships, rather than the cultural. And the best investigation I've found on this was done on the North American microteen rodents, aka voles. These voles vary significantly from strictly biparental monogamous structures to Jessica at the Sweet Dreams Bazaar. The hormones oxytocin, vasopressin, and dopamine have all shown links to the monogamy/promiscuous nature of voles. Voles with a higher density of oxytocin in the nucleus accumbens tend to be more monogamous. Now, the nucleus accumbens sounds like a fancy name for someone who went to private school. All it really is a part of the brain that is connected to the reward-related pathways. In male voles, dopamine released connects feel-good emotions with their specific significant other. Certain dopamine receptors impact on the male vole's ability to fall in love, but then keep that integrity afterwards. There is a dopamine 1 and a dopamine 2 receptor. D2 is a monogamy one. It allows for the initial pairing bond to form. D1 is a bit of a bitter, jealous lover that prevents their love. But don't hate on it, as once you get in your happy relationship, it blocks the bonded males from being interested in any other vole candy. The activation of D2 alone is enough to form lifelong pairs, but if D1 was simultaneously activated, then this jeopardizes their ability to stay loyal. Although us humans are not voles, studying animal models helps us get a better biological understanding of being. A study that was done on humans was one that tested the love at first sight concept. Love was defined using the triangular love scale. Before the investigation, pictures of subjects were taken on a blank background, where they were labeled by a scientist as either rather attractive or rather unattractive. These photos were then shown to groups of men and women to measure their LAFS. What the study found was that men generally experience more love at first sight than women. However, they do think this is linked to another study, where on online dating, photos of men smiling were judged more negatively by women. Rather, photos of women smiling were rated higher and more attractive. If you're a member of the male species watching this, I don't want this video to be the origin of your villain story. I would like to say that I think smiles are very beautiful. In short, get those gnashers out. In conclusion, whether it's history, art, fiction, or science, love is at the heart of everything we do. Many muses have inspired tragic yet beautiful stories. Love does have the ability to create misery, longing, and pain, but it can also create life.